You're listening, perhaps sitting quietly, or maybe walking somewhere in thought. And as you do, something within you begins to settle, the rhythm of breathing, the gentle hum of awareness. Today, you will journey inward, into the depths of the human mind, into the landscape where one of our oldest and most misunderstood forces resides. Aggression. It is a word that often brings discomfort. It conjures images of anger, of conflict, of harm. But aggression is older than any language, older than civilization itself. It is nature's inheritance, a survival code etched deep within your nervous system. It exists not to destroy, but to protect. And when understood, it can transform from a storm into strength, from chaos into clarity. So let's begin this exploration, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Somewhere in the center of your brain, tucked beneath layers of reason and imagination, lies a small almond-shaped cluster, the amygdala. It is ancient. It does not think, it reacts. When it senses threat, real or imagined, it sends a surge through your body. Your heart races, your breath sharpens, muscles tighten. This is the biological spark of aggression. It began as nature's alarm. Our ancestors relied on it to fight predators, to claim resources, to survive. But as humanity evolved, the predators disappeared, and yet the fire stayed. Now, the same ancient spark ignites when your ego feels cornered, when your pride feels attacked, when you lose control. Aggression is not evil. It is energy misdirected. And to understand how to control it, you must first understand how it takes shape within you. There are two great forces inside the human mind: the amygdala, which reacts, and the prefrontal cortex, which reflects. One is instinctual, the other deliberate. One shouts, the other listens. Aggression is born when these two fall out of balance. When the amygdala overpowers the prefrontal cortex, the thinking mind is silenced. You act before you think. You strike before you reflect. Your perception narrows to a single target, the perceived threat. But when the prefrontal cortex stays awake, you feel the same heat, yet you can contain it. You observe the emotion rise without letting it spill. That moment, that pause between impulse and action, that is where mastery begins. Pause here for a moment. Notice that space within yourself, the place between feeling and acting. How often do you breathe before you respond? Not all aggression is loud. Some forms wear silence as a mask. It can hide in the way you withdraw affection, the way you undermine someone softly, or even the way you turn your anger inward, toward yourself. Psychology calls these passive, verbal, and inward aggression. Biology makes no distinction. The same systems activate, whether your attack is outward or internal. You might clench your jaw when someone disrespects you. You might replay an argument long after it ended, trying to win it in your mind. Or perhaps you suppress it, pretending it doesn't bother you, until one day it erupts over something trivial. Aggression is rarely born in a moment. It builds in silence, unseen, unspoken. And that's why awareness becomes your first instrument of control. Because what you cannot observe, you cannot transform. Let's look deeper. When anger rises, adrenaline and cortisol flood your bloodstream. Your amygdala fires rapidly, while your hypothalamus releases stress hormones. The prefrontal cortex, which governs empathy and reasoning, temporarily dims. You literally lose access to your higher self. For a few seconds, the ancient brain takes over, preparing your body to fight or flee. This is why in moments of rage, people often say, "I wasn't myself." Biologically, they're right. They weren't. But here's something remarkable. Neuroscience also shows that awareness itself changes the brain. When you notice your anger rising, when you simply name it, "I feel aggression rising," you re-engage the prefrontal cortex. That single act of mindfulness begins to restore control. So when you feel the heat of anger in your chest or the pulse behind your eyes, you are witnessing the mind's alarm system in motion. Noticing it does not make you weak. It makes you conscious. Aggression often hides behind stories, small personal myths that justify it. He disrespected me. She deserved it. I had no choice. These stories are defense mechanisms, subtle distortions of reality designed to protect the ego from feeling small, powerless, or wrong. But every story of anger is really a story of fear underneath. Fear of losing control, of losing face, of losing value. When you strip away the story, what remains is energy, raw, unrefined, powerful. And that energy, if directed with awareness, becomes assertiveness, a mature form of aggression. The difference between destruction and direction lies only in consciousness. So the next time you feel wronged, betrayed, or underestimated, don't rush to silence or express it. Pause and ask yourself, what story is my mind creating right now? You may find that the anger begins to soften, simply because it has been understood. Psychologically, aggression is not an enemy. It is a shadow emotion, an extension of your unmet needs. When love feels unsafe, when sadness feels forbidden, when vulnerability feels weak, the psyche transforms these softer emotions into something it can tolerate: anger. In therapy, this is often seen in men and women who have learned early that showing pain is dangerous. Instead of crying, they lash out. Instead of asking for comfort, they argue. Beneath the surface, the root remains, a longing to be seen, accepted, safe. Recognizing this doesn't excuse aggression, but it explains it. It helps you meet it with curiosity instead of guilt. And that changes everything. For a moment, close the inner dialogue. Think of the last time you felt anger rise sharply within you. Was it really about that moment? Or was it the echo of something older, something unresolved? Aggression often carries memory, the body remembering where it wasn't heard, where it wasn't safe. And every time it reappears, it offers you a mirror, a chance to respond differently. In those moments, control doesn't mean suppressing the fire. It means holding it without letting it burn you. What if, instead of fighting aggression, you learn to redirect it? That same intensity that destroys can also create. Artists, athletes, and leaders have all felt aggression, but they have learned to convert it into momentum. Neuropsychology calls this sublimation, transforming raw impulses into socially or personally meaningful actions. When you exercise, paint, speak up, or confront injustice consciously, you are transmuting the fire. Aggression, when purified by awareness, becomes passion. It becomes drive. It becomes focus. The key is not to silence the storm, but to steer it. Humans are emotional mirrors for one another. Aggression doesn't exist in isolation. It spreads through emotional contagion. When one person's anger enters a room, everyone's nervous system subtly reacts. This is why conflict escalates, because our mirror neurons amplify what they see. If someone shouts, your amygdala prepares to shout back. But if you maintain calm, your presence can regulate the entire emotional climate. This isn't philosophy, it's neuroscience. The calm brain literally influences the aggressive brain. So controlling aggression isn't just self-mastery, it's social harmony. You become a stabilizing force in an unstable world. Pause and let that settle. Your calm can change more than just yourself. You've now seen aggression from the inside. Its biology, its psychology, its roots in fear and unmet need. But understanding is only the beginning. In Part 2, you'll learn how to reshape your inner response, how to train the mind and body to remain composed even in heat. You'll explore evidence-based exercises like breath anchoring, cognitive reframing, and mindful confrontation, along with one final reflective insight: how calm is not the absence of aggression, but its evolution. When you are ready, we'll continue deeper into that stillness. Because the mind's greatest strength is not in resisting the storm, but in learning to guide it. You've seen the storm within, the roots of aggression, how it forms, how it hides, and how it moves through the body and mind. Now we go deeper, beyond understanding, into transformation. Because awareness, while powerful, is only the first doorway. To truly master aggression, you must learn how to retrain the very systems that ignite it. not through suppression, but through alignment. Aggression is not a problem to erase. It is energy waiting for direction. And in this second half of your journey, you'll learn how to guide that energy through the body, the breath, and the mind. Let's begin with the body, because that's where aggression first announces itself. When your heartbeat quickens, when your jaw tightens, when your fists curl, your body is already speaking before your thoughts catch up. Every emotion is first physical. That means control begins not in logic, but in sensation. Inside your nervous system, two branches dance continuously. The sympathetic, which fuels action, and the parasympathetic, which restores calm. Aggression happens when one dominates the other, when the sympathetic system remains stuck in overdrive. You can't think your way out of it, but you can breathe your way through it. When you next feel tension rising, not necessarily full anger, just that tightening within, pause for a single moment and draw your awareness to the breath. Don't control it yet. Simply observe. Notice, when you are tense, the breath becomes shallow, upper chest, rapid. Your body is preparing to act. Now guide it gently downward. Inhale slowly through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold for 2. Exhale through your mouth for 6. This is not spiritual poetry. This is biology. Longer exhalation signals the vagus nerve, the main channel of your parasympathetic system. It tells your body, you are safe. Do this 3 times, not to erase the feeling, but to slow the current. Each time, the amygdala quiets a little more, and the prefrontal cortex, your seat of wisdom, begins to return. Many people equate control with suppression. They push the anger down, hide it behind polite smiles, and call it maturity. But suppression isn't mastery. It's avoidance in disguise. When you suppress, the emotion doesn't vanish. It sinks, waiting for the next trigger. True control comes not from denial, but from integration. You acknowledge the fire, feel its heat, and still decide how to use it. This requires inner honesty. You can't control what you refuse to meet. So the next time you feel that surge, don't fight it. Name it. Say to yourself, aggression is here. Then ask softly, what does it try to protect? That simple question shifts you from reaction to reflection. The energy begins to move from the body's grip to the mind's understanding. Every emotion carries a lens, a way of seeing the world. Aggression's lens is narrow and fast. It filters everything through threat and defense. If someone disagrees, it hears attack. If someone moves faster, it sees disrespect. Cognitive psychology teaches that what we feel is often the product of how we interpret. Your brain doesn't respond to reality. It responds to the story it believes about reality. This is where cognitive reframing becomes a profound tool. When you feel wronged, pause and ask, what else could this mean? Is it possible they're reacting from their own pain? Is my anger about this moment or about something older? Each question widens the lens. And aggression cannot survive in a wide lens. It feeds on tunnel vision. Reframing doesn't justify others' actions. It frees you from being trapped in your own. In mindfulness-based behavioral therapy, there's a practice known as anchoring, returning to one constant sensation when the mind becomes stormy. Your anchor might be your breath, your feet on the floor, or the sound of your own heartbeat. When aggression begins to rise, choose an anchor. Say to yourself, I will stay here. Keep your focus gently, not forcefully, on that one anchor for a few moments. You're not escaping the emotion, you're creating space around it. And in that space, control returns. The angry mind is a fast mind. Anchoring slows it enough to see what it's doing. Aggression isn't only personal, it's contagious. Every outburst you release enters an emotional chain reaction. You've seen it. One driver honks, another responds, and within seconds, strangers become enemies. But the opposite is also true. Calm is contagious. When you regulate yourself in a moment of tension, you silently offer permission for others to do the same. In leadership psychology, this is called emotional regulation contagion, the ability to stabilize an environment through one's own nervous system. You can be that regulator in families, in friendships, in work. The way you breathe, speak, pause, it ripples outward. Each calm response is an invisible act of peacekeeping. And slowly, your calm begins to teach others without a single word. Why does anger sometimes feel so personal? Why does being challenged feel like being attacked? Because the mind confuses belief with identity. When someone challenges your opinion, the brain, especially the amygdala, interprets it as a threat to your sense of self. That's why debates become battles, and discussions turn into defenses. But when you learn to separate who you are from what you think, the ego loosens its grip. You stop needing to win every argument. You begin to understand that peace is not the absence of conflict. It's the freedom to engage without fear. So next time someone provokes you, remind yourself, my worth is not under attack. Only my viewpoint is being tested. That small distinction changes everything. Here's a simple, evidence-backed exercise used in dialectical behavior therapy, the stop technique. When anger rises, S, stop. Don't move. Don't speak. T, take a breath. Let oxygen reach the prefrontal cortex. U, observe. What am I feeling? What story am I telling? P, proceed. Now choose, not react, but choose your next step consciously. It takes less than 10 seconds, yet rewires how the brain handles conflict. Repeated often, this becomes automatic, your new emotional reflex. What if you began to see aggression not as a flaw, but as feedback? Each time it appears, it's revealing a limit, something within you that feels threatened or unheard. If you listen closely, aggression tells you where your boundaries are weak, where your expectations are unspoken, or where your wounds still ache. It points to the places where healing wants to happen. And that is its gift, because once you understand what it's showing you, aggression no longer controls you. It becomes a messenger, not a master. Think of the mind as a vast hall of mirrors. Each emotion reflects a part of you you haven't fully met. Anger reflects fear. Resentment reflects unmet need. Jealousy reflects insecurity. And aggression reflects the untamed will to protect what you value most. To tame it, you must meet it without flinching. To meet it, you must be still enough to see clearly. Silence, then, is not avoidance. It's vision. Aggression is high-voltage emotion. You can't dissolve it instantly, but you can redirect it. Neuroscience shows that physical release helps reset the nervous system. Exercise, walking, breath work, creative focus, all convert the charge into motion. But psychological transformation happens when that energy finds meaning. Channel your aggression toward progress, not punishment. Turn it into fuel for your goals, your discipline, your courage. When you use it consciously, aggression becomes drive without destruction, intensity without injury. That is mastery, not a calm that's cold, but a calm that burns steady. Controlling aggression doesn't mean avoiding confrontation. Healthy confrontation is essential for growth and honesty. But it begins from presence, not pressure. When you confront, speak from observation, not accusation. Replace "you always" with "I notice that." Replace "you make me angry" with "I feel frustrated when." The language of awareness disarms defense, in yourself and in others. This is emotional Aikido, redirecting energy instead of colliding with it. Over time, people feel safer around you. And when people feel safe, conflict becomes communication. Every time you choose awareness over reaction, neurons rewire. The connection between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex strengthens. You are literally reshaping the architecture of your brain. Psychology calls this neuroplasticity, the mind's ability to reform itself through experience. It's not a metaphor. Each calm choice leaves a trace, a neural pathway that says, we can stay centered here. So, control isn't a single victory. It's a habit built neuron by neuron. Aggression will never fully disappear, and it shouldn't. It is part of what makes you alive, protective, passionate, driven. But awareness refines it. It turns the storm into wind, the fire into warmth. When you understand aggression, you no longer fear it. When you guide it, you no longer harm through it. And when you make peace with it, you become something rare in this world, a calm force. Pause here. Feel your breath again, steady, present, grounded. This is what control feels like. Not rigidity, but spaciousness. You cannot stop the storm from forming, but you can remember that you're the sky. The mind's greatest power is not to silence emotion, but to understand it so deeply that it can move through you without leaving chaos behind.